Most of us picture authors staring out a rainy window, waiting for the muse to strike. But the reality is usually much colder, grinding away in obscurity, hoping the royalty checks eventually cover the rent. That is the trap Ella Barnard found herself in. She had created a coaching program to help women make money writing, but she wasn't a big name in the industry. Nobody was taking her seriously, and no one was buying her course. So instead of giving up, she made an unusual pivot. She decided to go through her own program and become her own test subject. This graph shows what happened next. After months of flat-lined course sales, her revenue spikes directly to $3,000 a month at the 90-day mark, eventually grossing $50,000 in her first year. She pulled this off by abandoning traditional writing advice. She stopped waiting for inspiration and started treating her fiction like an iterative, aggressively data-driven tech startup. When Ella sat down to write, she didn't start by dreaming up a protagonist or a fantasy world. She started with basic math. Looking at this formula, you can see her constraints. She knew she was a slow writer, averaging about 500 words an hour. Writing a standard 80,000-word novel would take months of unpaid labor before she ever saw a dime. But those smaller 10,000-word chunks map perfectly to the short romance market. By writing short stories instead of massive novels, she could churn out new products rapidly. She mapped out a strict calendar, scheduling drafts and releases every few weeks to keep the momentum going. Naturally, that rigid schedule fell apart almost immediately. Her expected pacing didn't match her actual output, forcing her to revise her entire timeline in the first week. By forcing these mathematical constraints early, she avoided sinking half a year into a giant manuscript that might never sell. When it came time to launch, Ella made a highly counterintuitive move. She published the books under a completely secret pen name. She even actively forbade her own friends and family from buying or reviewing her work. Look at this node map of Amazon's recommendation engine. The platform relies heavily on also-bought data. When a specific type of reader buys a book, the algorithm automatically links that book to other highly relevant readers in the same cluster. If your supportive aunt who normally reads political biographies buys your steamy romance novel, her data infects your cluster. The system gets confused, recommends the book to the wrong people, and your organic reach dies. Cultivating a pure, untainted data profile for the algorithm is worth far more than a handful of guaranteed sales from your social circle. Operating this way requires checking your artistic ego at the door, which is often the hardest emotional hurdle for any creator. Early on, an alpha reader pointed out that Ella's first draft was written in the wrong tense for the genre's expectations. Without hesitation, she trashed 6,000 words and started over. A few weeks later, a lukewarm reader review suggested her homemade book covers didn't quite fit the market. This chart illustrates her reaction. She didn't defend her art. She instantly redesigned the covers to match established market tropes, and the next day, her daily page reads spiked by over 1,000. She took this a step further in subsequent books, deliberately engineering her main characters to be less complex and easier to write, entirely to optimize her daily output. When you treat your writing like a responsive business, the market's reaction dictates the final product, not the author's pride. By week 6, her machine was running at full speed. She stacked Amazon's free promotional days with coordinated newsletter swaps from other authors in her genre. That synchronized strike pulled in over 5,300 page reads in a single 24-hour period. She calls this process systematizing success. It requires gathering hard data, removing the guesswork from your creative choices, and making continuous micro-adjustments to your workflow. The romanticized author waits for inspiration to strike, hoping their passion eventually finds an audience. The authorpreneur treats their catalog like a calculated machine, tweaking variables until it generates a profit. In the modern digital economy, earning a predictable living from your art means stripping away the preciousness of it and approaching your creativity as a rigorously engineered system.